Ladies and gentlemen, drivers, gig workers, and everyone in between, welcome to This Week in Rideshare podcast. I'm your host, Jared Hoffa. It is Friday, April 17th, and this week we are talking about injuries and how minor injuries can cause major issues. And as always, Legal Rideshare breaks it down. And from Legal Rideshare, I'm joined by the co-founder and lead attorney, Bryant Greening. Bryant, happy, beautiful Friday.
Happy Friday, Jared. Great to be back. Glad to be doing a special episode today. A little bit of different information, but hopefully really valuable for our viewers and listeners.
Yeah, it's been a minute since we've done this, and I think it's important that we always re-emphasize that we are here to help with accidents and injuries. And actually, I spent a lot of time in Chicago hopping in and out of Ubers this week, and had a lot of questions from drivers. So I thought, hey, why not hop on with Brian on This Week in Rideshare, and we knock out the questions that they had, and what they should do. So that's why I thought this would be a good time to do it.
I love it. Let's go.
All right, so here we go. And let's start off, with the basics here. And again, this is really focused on minor injuries. So, Brian, tell me what defines a minor injury after a rideshare accident?
Yeah, so it's interesting that you're using the word minor because every injury is major to the person that sustains it. And I think a lot of times what happens is insurance companies try to designate injuries as minor or severe, or they might use words like soft tissue versus fractures, broken bones. And they're trying to put different classifications on these injuries that occur in rideshare accidents. So it's important for us to define minor, and I put that in quotes, based on what the insurance company might try to designate an injury as such. We talk about soft tissue injuries, sprains, strains, things that don't involve fractures or typically would not require surgery. That's what a insurance company would say is minor, even though it's likely to cause significant pain and significant disruption in a person's life who sustains that sort of injury.
Yeah, and that really leads me to my next question here. And I feel like you're already leading up to this. Can minor, again, I know minor is such a general term and it's more than minor, but can minor injuries turn into something major if untreated? A lot of drivers call us and passengers and say, yeah, I feel a little sore, or yeah, I have a headache, my neck hurts, but I'm not that bad, so I'm going to wait it out and see what happens. Can it get worse from there?
Absolutely. What seems like a minor injury can get far more severe and require a lot more treatment if left untreated. We see all the time that people try to be heroes. They feel a little bit of pain after an accident, maybe some neck soreness, soreness in their back, and they'll say, you know what, I'll see what happens. Maybe I'll take some Tylenol and I'll call it a day. And then a few weeks later, when those pains have not resolved and in fact gotten worse, they find themselves behind the eight ball, both in terms of having waited too long for treatment, missing out on really valuable time where they could have been strengthening their muscles, um, being under the care of a physician who can make sure that they're doing the right things to get that injury healed correctly and quickly. And then also, they've put themselves in a situation where the insurance company is going to classify their injury as minor because, as the insurance company will often argue, people who are seriously injured go to the doctor right away. People who are seriously injured go get checked out. So you've put yourself in this camp of minor injury, even though it might not be.
Right. And so I'd love to hear the scenario here as an example because there's so many layers to this. So okay, here's an example. I'm a Uber driver in Chicago, and I got into an accident, or I'm a an Uber passenger in Chicago, and I got into an accident. What are the steps that you should take after that happens?
Well, once you're involved in an accident, your body has suffered some sort of physical force. There's a physical trauma that happens when there is a collision and you're a passenger in the vehicle. We recommend that you go get checked out immediately, even if it's just to an urgent care or to a primary care physician. Just get checked out because the physician will then be able to determine Is this something that you can just kind of rest and see how it resolves on its own? Or alternatively, is there something else going on that needs to be watched more closely? Should you come back in a couple days to see if the injuries have, or symptoms have changed at all? Do we need to ensure that you get physical therapy so that you're strengthening the muscles around the injured body part to avoid re-injury? There's all sorts of ways in which going to the doctor early can help benefit you both in terms of your health and also make sure that you're setting a solid foundation for any injury claim that you need to make later.
Got it. So you already answered my next question about when to know when a minor injury becomes more major. So when it gets to that point, it turns out, again, you're an Uber passenger and you got injured in an accident, or an Uber driver and you got injured in an accident in Chicago. You got checked out. It looks like it is something. It's not just a scratch. You're not going to walk it off. At that point, where does Legal Rideshare step in, and how does Legal Rideshare help this process forward versus not contacting Legal Rideshare?
Yeah, you want to contact LegalRideshare if you're injured in an Uber or Lyft related accident. We help establish the claim with the appropriate insurance companies, make sure that we're holding the responsible parties responsible for your losses. And that means doing things like collecting the cost of your medical treatment. We don't want you to go in medical debt because of somebody else's negligence. We want you to get the treatment that you need to heal, and then we'll get those bills paid through the insurance claims process. We can also help you recover for things like lost wages. So a lot of people who have injuries, whether minor or more significant, do have to miss work. If you've missed work because of an Uber or Lyft accident, we can help you recover that money, recover the lost wages, so that you can pay the bills. You have to put food on the table. We don't want you losing money as a result of this circumstance. And then there's also pain and suffering and what we call loss of normal life or temporary disability. These are non-economic damages. There's not receipts attached to them that we can help recover money for, because you've gone through something. You've gone through the stress of the injury. You've gone through the pain of not being able to move in the same ways that you did before. You've gone through the limitations of not being able to do your job or carry your baby or exercise or whatever it may be, and you deserve compensation for that. So Legal Rideshare steps in and demands money for all of those losses so that you can be fully compensated for your injuries.
Yeah, and it's great that you bring that up. I don't think drivers or passengers who are in these accidents understand sort of the avenues and scope of everything you explained. They think, well, if I don't have a broken bone, a lawyer can't do anything. I actually spoke to, it was a passenger in a Lyft accident in Chicago, and I was mentioning about the term loss of normal life, and I just made as an example, let's say you play golf or you throw a baseball with your son and you can't anymore. And he actually went, ironically, that's what happened. I couldn't help my daughter with something she needed help with. I couldn't help her move. I guess she was moving into a new location. And I was like, exactly. So that's the sort of stuff that we can step in, because now your life has changed in a way that could be permanent forever. Um,
I think it's interesting that you say that because it doesn't have to be forever. So a lot of times people are saying, well, my injury only lasted a few months and I was able to return to my normal level of activity. That's the vast majority of cases. The vast majority of these claims are situations where people have a temporary injury, they have a sprain or strain, they even may have a broken bone, they get the treatment that they need, and by the end of the course of treatment they're back to their normal lives. That's what we hope for, but that doesn't change the fact that during the treatment, during the time where you were physically injured, your life was altered. And of course, the value of a claim in which somebody has a lifelong permanent restriction or limitation, that's going to be far greater than if somebody has a few months of limitation. But that doesn't mean that the few months doesn't deserve compensation. It doesn't mean that the insurance company gets to write that off and you don't have any valid claim for what you went through. That's still a period of time where you were limited in your life, where you were feeling physical pain, where you were incurring medical bills, incurring lost wages. So you shouldn't be hesitant to claim what you've lost and try to recover what's rightfully yours.
Well, as always, Bryant, that was very informational, and I'm going to give you the final say, as I always do. What is the best way for people to reach out to Legal Rideshare if they have injuries or questions?
LegalRideshare.com has all of our contact information. We encourage phone calls, emails. You can chat with us actually through the website. And please do not hesitate to reach out if you've got questions, if you've been injured. Our consultations are always free. We want to provide the information that you need to have a solid foundation for your injury claim. And there is no question too big or too small. So please reach out to us, and we're happy to help.
Thank you, Bryant. And as I like to say, that is the end of This Week in Rideshare. See you next week.